Domo domo, what is up everybody? Welcome back to another Jujutsu Kaisen Manga Lounge. Alright, so for all you Mei fans out there, we got a couple of really cool chapters. Again, I have to throw this in here.
We could have been a good couple. We could have had something special. But you one crazy ass.
Mei really kind of, she's shooting up there in terms of my my personal character popularity rankings. Just kind of the way she, you know, her style almost kind of has this JoJo kind of thing going on. Love to see these kind of eccentric characters, but let's get right into it. Chapters 101 and 102. Today we've got a little bit of a double whammy because I didn't do chapter 101 last week. Mainly because I did chapter 100 as a kind of special video. Thanks very much if you check that out. I was kind of pleasantly surprised by the overwhelming response. It was very nice to see, and I appreciate that. And also just because chapters 101 and 102 are almost kind of a package in terms of Mei and her fight against the smallpox deity. But without further ado, I want to get right into it. Probably going to keep it a little bit shorter today because there's not really too much extras besides the fight itself, and also obviously Choso and Itadori a little bit. But I want to keep it short mainly because I've been playing Resident Evil 3 and I need to get back to that. Excellent game. So I've got my PlayStation kind of on rest mode right now, and I'm going to try to finish this up. Not to say I'm putting this aside, but sort of, yeah. Anyways, let's get into it. So chapter 101, Shibuya Incident Part 19. So of course we left off chapter 100 with Nanami and his little fight against the side ponytail guy. And if you do follow me on Twitter as well, maybe you saw that I noticed that the side ponytail guy, his cheeks, he's got those marks on his cheeks, and if you look closely, they go empty with each kind of killing blow that Nanami does, and it's almost kind of like an HP gauge or life bar in video games and stuff. And the side ponytail guy even comments like, "Hey, man, I would have been dead after that punch if it weren't for my curse technique." So I originally thought that it was just the hand sword that was the curse technique, but I think it might be a little bit more. Maybe he has kind of a sort of cat's 9 lives kind of deal, and he has 6 in total, 3 on each cheek, right? And maybe he has more marks elsewhere. We don't know. So we know that maybe he has at least 6 do-overs, so to speak, and he might have more. Anyways, so we left off with that, and so they got Nita and Nanami. They kind of quickly realized that kind of what my suspicion has been for a while now, that when Itadori shouted out that Gojo has been sealed, I had a sneaking suspicion that Nobara's group actually didn't know. They were kind of out of the loop, and sure enough, they mentioned that they headed straight indoors, so they couldn't hear Itadori, which is kind of a cool detail. Luckily, it didn't turn out too bad for Nobara, but as of right now, Maki and Naobito Zenin are still kind of out of the loop, right? So hopefully they're okay. But we kind of proceed to this little conversation between Nobara and Nanami saying like, "I want to go help too," Nobara is saying, and Nanami is pretty stern here. And there definitely was a part of me that was like, oh man, they're kind of putting Nobara on the bench. But it's not really that. It's very realistic. I like these kind of things where
one eternity later.
It's not really that. It's just the fact that Nanami's very realistic about this kind of stuff, right? And not to say that Nobara might just kind of go against Nanami's word and enter the fray anyways, but I like the way that Akutami kind of makes this divide, saying, hey, look, no. There's people that have business here, and there are people that need to stay out of it. And I like that because oftentimes in shonen, just like you have people who have absolutely no business being in the fight, like being there and things like that. So I kind of appreciate this sternness from Nanami, right? But like I said, not to say that Nobara will probably find her way into the fight anyways, right? Probably definitely can't be the last that we've seen of her. But anyways, then definitely we head into Mei Mei here, runs into Geto, or pseudo Geto, or someone commented Getu, like Getwo, Getu. I like that too. I love these kind of moments because Mei Mei, you kind of get a glimpse into her thought process. She's kind of just chit-chatting and stuff, but in her head it's running 100 miles per hour, kind of going like, what's going on? Did Gojo mess up? Are Gojo and Geto in cahoots? Like, and these kind of moments I think we really take for granted because I don't want to make like a generalization, but in Shonen Jump typically it's just kind of like really just, they don't really kind of go into depth with those kind of things, and they just start slashing and this and that. So I really appreciate this kind of more the thought process and things like that. Kind of gives a more complexity to it. But then Geto summons special grade disease curse, smallpox deity. So a classification of disease curse, so maybe there's going to be more. I have a feeling there might be. But this is based on an actual kind of a Japanese folklore of the Hosogami, which very much was kind of a feared deity run rampant on the population, and they even have like shrines dedicated and stuff to this Hosogami to kind of keep it contained almost. And later on in the chapter you'll see this stone with the rope around it. That's actually a real thing. And then I love these kind of folklore nods and things like that. But then so Geto is just like, all right, he's all yours. So immediately we have Hosogami, the smallpox deity, with the domain expansion, and Mei Mei gets trapped in the coffin. But that's part one, right? And then immediately after that we have the grave. And then this is exactly what I'm talking about. This stone right here on page 8. This actually exists in Japan, and this rope, it's supposed to be kind of like a purification rope. But then he starts a countdown, but Mei Mei, being the badass that she is, and her little one-liner here, I wonder how long it's been since my life has been in danger, even for a moment. And then Uyui's all like, oh man, she's so cool. And she is. But then we turn over to Itadori. Itadori, he's smart. He kind of realizes like, well, what's going on? There's supposed to be a bunch of people down here, right? But we know that the people got funneled into B5, right, where Gojo was. And here we go. Runs right into Choso. And of course we know Choso knows Itadori, even though they haven't met before. He knows him as the one that killed Kechizu and Eso at the Yasuhachi Bridge arc, right? So this Choso's abilities definitely, and we've seen him use his abilities before multiple times. And Akutami Sensei clearly kind of points out here on page 13 it's the same thing that Noritoshi Kamo is using as well, right? This blood manipulation. We're supposed to be kind of given a connection here, and it's kind of interesting to think what Akutami Sensei's intention is here. For me, if you've seen my theories video on who I think the Geto, pseudo Geto is, I think it's the old Noritoshi Kamo, which would make sense because then you have the most evil sorcerer Noritoshi Kamo kind of giving birth to the Death Moon paintings, right? Choso, Kechizu, and all of them. And then you have the connection between them and Kyoto School Kamo. So it would make sense in terms of the connection. Or it's a big red herring. I don't know. But of course, in the next chapter, at the very end, Geto kind of mentions something very interesting. So we'll come back to that later. And yeah, so it kind of the chapter kind of ends on Choso asking Itadori if Kichizu and Isso had any kind of last words. And then we head right into chapter 102. Of course, this awesome color page here with Mei. It's supposed to be kind of like a riff on Japanese, not just Japanese, but just like fashion magazines almost. That's why it says like the women of Jujutsu Kaisen. And I like the little detail here on the sunglasses. If you look carefully, you can see her looking at Itadori and then Uyui kind of on the left there. So that's pretty cool detail. I like that. But yeah, we're still sticking with Shibuya Instant. It is part 20 now. That's a good 5 months worth of Shibuya Instant chapters now. Yeah, wow. Alright, so then we immediately cut back to Itadori and Choso. And then, so Itadori, obviously he has no idea what the hell Choso's talking about, but as soon as he mentions the 2 that you killed, he understands. And I love this little panel on page 3 here. They did cry. And I think one of my favorite chapters was that Yasuhachi Bridge conclusion between Kichizu Choso versus Nobara and Itadori, kind of because of the way that it ended. That Itadori definitely did feel that remorse. Remember, he even apologized before he finished off Eso. So that's definitely going to be a theme going on in Jujutsu Kaisen, kind of not just Itadori's struggle with it, but just this idea of curses. They're not just all evil, right? And there is this kind of concept of like hybrid curses as well, almost like part human, part curse. So it'll be interesting to see how that's explored later on down the road. But then this panel number 4 right here, we see that little, it's supposed to be blood, right, I guess, and then the blood just kind of spreads out. He gets all hot. This awesome panel right here with Choso just powering up, and you see, I guess we're supposed to kind of assume that's blood on the back, right? And then followed up by another cool page right here. We go back to Mei-Mei's fight, and I guess the Hosogami, the smallpox deities, just keep on repeating this attack over and over again. But Mei just keeps on breaking out again. And man, Mei is really kind of shooting up in my best girls rankings. She's not maybe quite at the level of like Maki or Nobara or Miwa or whatever. But she's up there now. She's up there for sure. I love this face that she has here too, Mei. She's just like really enjoying it. She's crazy. But it's so funny. But she's very, very smart, right? I love, again, like I said in the previous chapter, she's always kind of thinking about what the thought process is. Trapped in the coffin, you bury with the gravestone and then start the 3 count. And then you get hit with the domain's effect, which she suspects to be that you get infected by the disease and you die. Yeah, and then she continues to kind of mention the fact that even though she looks like she's doing fine, the gravestone is actually kind of carving away her HP here. So she's saying, okay, we can't keep this up. And then she quickly kind of figures out that the gravestone only hits one person at a time, and that the smallpox deity kind of instinctively goes for whoever has the cursed energy, the bigger cursed energy, whoever's the bigger threat, right, within the domain. But then we also see this little crow here, kind of that got caught up in this domain. And then of course this crazy little panel right here on page 11 with Mei. Are you willing to die for me? And believe me, when I was translating this, I was like, oh my god, what's going on? Because, you know, their relationship's kind of weird, right? I don't think it's supposed to be like anything like super weird, but it's definitely offbeat, right? And it's fine because in a couple pages we figure out that this was really more kind of a secret code. As Uyui mentions, when Mei Mei says, like, are you willing to die for me? It's kind of like a secret code for Ueyui to be given permission to use his jutsu, his curse technique, and we find out that he uses the new shadow style, simple domain, this very same one that Miwa uses. So, and I'm very curious to see what this new shadow style is, because obviously also Muta uses in his fight Mekamaru against Mahito. So we'll probably be getting more on that too. It seems like within Jutsu there is this kind of practice of new shadow style, and it's almost supposed to be, remember when Muta uses against Mahito, there was that kind of explanation saying that it's a very kind of old style, meant to be a very defensive technique. So it'll be interesting to see what the history on that is. Since the smallpox deity is indeed special grade, just heals right up, but then we have this crow coming in with the kamikaze blast. And the original Japanese, they use the kanji for kamikaze, but it's read as bird strike. So we went with bird strike in the English. And then it's kind of weird to, like, you're not really sure what happened. And even Mei Mei's explanation, if you read it once, you're like, what does that mean? But again, it goes back to the whole idea of the binding vow. So binding vow is, we've seen this numerous times in the series, and it seems like the binding vow can be used almost as a way to power yourself up as well, as seen in this kind of this fight right here with the crow. But there's always a trade-off. Remember, like, anytime we see this binding vow, there's always this kind of fear, because the more you risk and the more you gain, the more you potentially have to lose if you break that vow, right? So basically, Mei Mei's technique is called blackbird manipulation. So what she does is she forces the crow to take their own life, so basically losing everything, but in exchange the cursed energy is maximized, and it's a very smart technique. And this again is just masterclass Akutami Sensei, very interesting power. I like the way that Jujutsu Kaisen is a lot more kind of complex. There's a thought process behind it, and it's not just whoever has kind of the bigger gun, so to speak, right? It's a lot more thought out, and it's a lot more interesting, if you ask me. And then so now the smallpox deity's domain is down, and then we see this whole army of crows coming in. And now that we know what Mei Mei can do with those crows, with the bird strike, it's kind of scary to think she could theoretically, I think, unless it has a toll on her each time she forces a crow to do it, maybe not. It's just kind of, as long as she has crows, she's able to just keep on doing it. And believe me, there's a lot of crows in Tokyo. But then chapter 102 is finished by this one panel right here where it says, not bad for a Jujutsu sorcerer of this era. And in the original Japanese, he says, Saikin no jutsushi toshite wa waruku nai, which basically means he's implying that he's not kind of this time, that he's saying, yeah, not bad for someone of this era or new Jujutsu sorcerer, implying that he's of the old. He's been around for a while now, which would, obviously, given what we know about what this guy is doing in terms of switching brains between bodies, we know that he's lived for a while. But it's kind of implying the fact that he's been kind of fighting Jujutsu sorcerers for a while, or he was a Jujutsu sorcerer before, which again falls in line with my theory that it is Norito Shikamo, the old one. So hopefully we'll find out more about this. Kind of excited. I mean, I might be completely wrong, but I have a good feeling about it. We'll have to see. And of course, this curse that he summons here, almost looks kind of like I want to say like an eel, or like not a catfish or something. Maybe like an electric eel. Electric eel. I don't know why I said it eel like that. Electric eel. Yeah, so it will be interesting to see. I guess it's going to be this Geto versus Mei, which is kind of scary, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyways, Carlos and Jill are waiting for me. Are you guys gamers? Perhaps. I'm a huge gamer. I don't really cover it here on the channel, but maybe down the road, if you are a gamer, let me know. Let me know what you've been playing or what some of your favorite games are. But anyways, yeah, appreciate it. Want to say thanks again for that overwhelming response for the top 7 moments video. And I do have another merch video coming up for Jujutsu Kaisen as well, so keep an eye out for that. But otherwise, I forgot my beverage today, forgot my drink, so I'm just gonna have to say, you know how we do. Mata yoroshiku. We'll see you later. See you next week.